Welcome to our broom cupboard. Today we are doing something a little bit different and we are recording ourselves through the product that we are talking about. This is the RØDE NTR, and the NTR is a ribbon made by RØDE in Sydney, and it is an amazing sounding mic. There's a number of very interesting things about it in terms of the way that it is built and what is inside it, which are worth talking about. So the other thing, by the way, before I get onto that, is that we'll be hearing the thing in use. Not only are you hearing it now on my voice, but our friend Dan Sherratt, who is a sound recordist and a very talented musician in his own right, we gave Dan a pair of RØDE NTRs and asked him to use them on a session. So we're going to have some clips hearing the NTR on a bunch of different sources, on piano, in stereo, on guitar cab, on vocals, and as a drum overhead as well. And it's to show that the NTR works on a whole range of different sources in a really amazing way. And the reason for that is that the NTR isn't like a lot of other ribbons, and RØDE especially are good at building things unlike other people, because RØDE own their own manufacturing process. They build their products in Sydney, and the NTR is built all in-house. In fact, even the electronics down to the transformer, which is custom wound by machines that they have there, that is their own design. They build that part. They don't buy that part from someone else. This microphone is active, which is to say that you do feed it phantom power, also unlike a lot of ribbon microphones, because the general sort of vibe of ribbon microphones is they tend to be quite dark, as in they don't have a very pronounced high end, and they also don't always have a very extended low end. Now, the trick with the NTR is that it has both of those things. It's actually got a really nice high end, and it's got tremendous amounts of low end, and this is in a balanced way. It also doesn't have another trait from other ribbon mics, which is a very low output volume. With certain other ribbons, you tend to need to apply a ton of gain from your preamp, as in literally the output of the microphone is very quiet, so you have to add loads of gain, and if you don't have the best preamp in the world, with that gain, then you're adding a bunch of noise as well. And this is not a problem that the NTR has. Because it has active electronics, you feed it phantom power, it has a very loud output gain in a good way. So it's got a really broad frequency response, and that means that it can be used on a bunch of different sources, not just cabs and drum overheads, which are the kinds of things that people use ribbon mics for typically. You can use it on tons of sources. So let's actually hear it on a bunch of different sources. We'll go through them in turn and just listen to the detail that it captures and the kind of inherent tone, because it's just got a very beautiful sound. So let's watch.
But if I lay me down a while, if I lay me down a while, soon I will be free. To be free is to know that everything around you returns to the rolling sea.
So, you've heard the NTR in action on a bunch of different sources. We had vocal, we had guitar, we had piano, and we had drum overheads as well. I mean, these are obviously just a couple of examples, typical recording scenarios. You can treat it like a traditional mic, in the sense as in a traditional large diaphragm condenser. Put it on the same kinds of sources that you would and hear how it sounds, because I think you'll be very surprised. Should point out it comes with some very nice accessories. You get this little clip, which is a new clip of their own design, of RØDE's design. And it's important to point that out because what you don't need is a shock mount cradle. The ribbon element itself is actually held in suspension via a very clever system. And so you don't need a third-party shock mount in order to use it. You can just use a little clip. And it sounds really boring, but the clip is really, really good. As in when you tighten it, it stays tight. Obviously a basic thing, but they don't always do that, and genuinely, like, this design is amazing for that. So you don't need a third-party shock mount, you can just use it as is. One thing which I think really scares a lot of people with ribbon microphones is this whole thing of sensitivity. Like, isn't the ribbon this sort of incredibly precious little object, and if I even so much as breathe on it, then it'll all burst into flames? No, you don't have to treat this differently to really any other microphone. Giving it high SPL is not a problem. Obviously, the thing is designed to cope with being used as a drum overhead. Absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. I mean, the only thing that you actually would need to be careful with is just don't drop it. But then that's just generally good advice for anything in your studio. Just don't drop your stuff. That just makes sense. So, but don't worry about it, and that's the main thing. Treat it like you would treat a condenser. Use it on the kinds of things that you would use one of those mics for, because you will hear that it just sounds beautiful. It's got a really, really lovely tone, and it does justice to so many different sources. So that is the RØDE NTR. We very much hope you like it. Any questions, please leave a comment. Thank you.